Hey, Dominators, Rico Garcia here. Hope you're excited for a new episode. Today's episode, we are joined with Drew over at BluSky, which is the CEO of BluSky. And I got to tell you, this is an amazing interview. Regardless of where you are in your journey as a restoration professional, you will draw something from this interview. I can promise you that. We go through the entire history of BluSky, where they've come from, where they are right now, some of the things that they had to go through as an organization, and more importantly, what's on the horizon, which are some pretty ambitious things. But we also cover, how to be better at sales, how to really go ahead and start creating company culture, and so much more. There was so much to cover with Drew. He's such an amazing individual with so much knowledge about the industry and also about what it takes to really be a leader inside of the restoration arena or any other business for that matter. So without further ado, here's the interview. Hope you enjoy, and I'll catch you guys on the other side.
Welcome to the Restoration Domination podcast, where you learn actionable advice that moves the needle and helps service-based businesses dominate. Here's your host, Rico Garcia Jr.
What is going on, Restoration Dominators? Rico Garcia here. Really excited. Got a really exciting show for you today. Drew, thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with us today. Are you ready to help us dominate?
Hell yeah, absolutely.
I love it. I love it. So for those people out there that may not be familiar with the name, they're not familiar with who you are and what you do, just give us a quick little intro, fill in some of the gaps on my intro, let people know who you are and exactly what it is that you do.
Yeah, Drew Bisping, and I am the Chief Executive Officer for BluSky Restoration. We're based here out of Denver, but a fully national firm in the restoration industry.
Awesome. So let's kind of dive into a little bit of the origin story, right? Everybody's got a very unique story on how they got into the restoration arena. A lot of people have just bumped into the industry, and next thing you know, they've got, they're in the business 10 years later. They're like, wait, how did I even get here? And I always think that there's a lot of lessons to be learned in the origin story itself. So, kind of take us back to where you think, you first started to get into the business, you started to learn about the business, and how did you, what was that journey like for you?
Yeah, nobody sits around in grade school and says, you go down the line of the kids and say, well, I want to be a fireman, I want to be a police officer, I want to go into restoration. That doesn't happen, right? Everybody's got a story of how you fell into it. For me, I really grew up in construction and I grew up in Minnesota and got into that. That was kind of what our family did. And then I went to school for construction management. I had my own business for a little bit after college, learned a whole lot of fun lessons about cash flow, and that'd be another podcast in itself. But kind of ended up, not wanting to fight the weather and moved to Colorado, which is a much more favorable for construction in general. I was just a young person that was passionate about construction and trying to find my way, and worked for Pulte Homes, built about 1,000 homes with them. Really a great organization, but as the downturn of the economy was happening in 2007, like many people, I was trying to figure out, okay, my job might be going away. And I had administered 5 rounds of layoffs as my leadership role, what I was doing for Pulte, but the writing was on the wall. The home building was dying. And so honestly, just got a referral to somebody. I said, hey, why don't you look at restoration? And I said, what's restoration? I knew construction, I knew building, I'd fixed, all kinds of different things, I did remodeling. But the concept of restoration as an industry really wasn't familiar to me, even though I'd spent my life doing some form of construction one way or the other. So it was really a referral to the early days of what BluSky was. And I remember I came and interviewed with Terry Shadrick and Andy Baker, the 2 founders of BluSky. And the interview started as, I was there to talk about a project management role. Then it kind of morphed into, so why don't you, maybe you've got a flair, maybe you should be a salesperson. And it's more operationally minded in my views from my past history. And so I said, well, I don't want to be a salesperson. Well, and then they said, why don't you come manage our project managers? This all was in the course of a 45-minute interview. And so kind of as we left that discussion, suddenly here I am jumping into the restoration industry. I was young, I was about to get married, and really was more concerned about stability and making sure I had a job and could pay for, the next stage of my life. So yeah, I kind of fell into it just like everybody else does. And that's how at least I got into restoration in the early days of BluSky. We were one location here in Denver as those gentlemen were starting the company.
So, and how big was the organization back then when you joined?
We had our first, it was I joined and we had a celebration the next day. It wasn't for me. We'd had our first $1 million month. So we're about 12 million in revenue, 23 employees at that time. And so pretty, relatively small compared to maybe where we are today. But
Right.
I certainly wasn't on the very first opening day, but 3 years after those guys had opened the business, we were at 12 million a year run rate and growing like crazy. It was a lot of growth in those days.
Right. So when you first joined the organization, roughly, $1 million a month, first $1 million month, right? So let's call it $12 million in revenue a year. And 3 years after that, how much were you guys at, ballpark?
Oof, I get my years right. We're probably in the 30 to 50 million range.
Right.
We were growing very quickly and still are, I guess. But in those years, certainly a lot of change.
So I want to kind of take back, right? Kind of go back, and because when anybody starts an organization or starts with an organization, we kind of start learning about the past, right? And you start to pick up on patterns very, very quickly. And there's lots of people that I know listen to the show, they watch the show, and a lot of these individuals are on their way to having their first $1 million year. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that you're in a very unique position because you started off where you got into an organization. It was $1 million. They were hitting their first $1 million a month, right? $12 million a year in revenue. What do you think, looking back, hindsight, right? 2020, what do you think was some of the key ingredients that allowed the organization to get to that $12 million a year, right? That $1 million a month mark. And then from there, probably my follow-up question is going to be based on those principles and based on what your perspective was back then to where the company expanded 3 years later, 5 years later, was it the same set of ingredients? Was it the same toolkit, the same mindset, or what was the change from there?
Yeah, I think there's an interesting perspective to have. So it's important to share that the mix of what was the business, right? So great, you're doing $1 million a month. What is that? And it was a healthy mix, is what I would say. Of we absolutely were part of the residential programs through Contractor Connection, and at that time, State Farm PSP. That was certainly one of the kind of foundational pieces of the business. But there's an and to that. Terry and Andy and the rest of the team had been really focusing on the multifamily industry as far as serving them through somewhat capital improvement, but also certainly core restoration services. So you've got residential or TPA work, and you've got the multifamily industry, and right. So there's some ands to this story, which I think is the keys. Very much a culture of social interaction out there in the marketplace. We're here to help, and certainly the early days of what I would call fundamental sales approach and relationship building. You'll probably hear me say this a couple of times as we discuss different topics, but this is a relationship business. And even in the early days, BluSky had a strength of approach towards relationships. And so if you say, how did they even go from 0 to 12 million a year? That's relationships. And it wasn't all TPAs. It wasn't just residential. It wasn't, and that can be tough, because even as you grow in the future, in the years to come, where do I put most of my focus? How do I not get distracted? What's the right thing? And I think as long as there's an and to the story, then you've got a reasonable shot at that. So yeah, it was a mix of things, and relationship focus, and just they were out having fun in the community and being part of the community, and that drove some new business.
Right. So when people hear relationships, right, I think that there's a lack of clarity with exactly what that means, because there's different calibers, different quality of relationship, right? And you can go ahead and spend all this time building relationships, quote unquote, with the wrong people, and it doesn't quite move the needle forward in your business, right? You're not creating the impact that you want. You're not creating the revenue that you need in order to be successful, in order to hire more people, in order to get more trucks, et cetera. So can you unpack at least your interpretation of what a good relationship is, on what other contractors should be looking to build, how they should be looking to build them, things of that nature?
Yeah, I think if it's about money, then you're in the wrong view. And what I would say, and I think this is still pervasive today within our culture at BluSky, if you're there to help somebody, and if you're there to add value to their situation, whether they're a homeowner and they need their house back, or if they're a business owner or manager, or all the myriad of different folks that fall into that tree. If you're there to help them first, from human to human, as I think our industry inherently has an empathy piece that should be there, right? And so if you're thinking about how can I help people, how can I help the community, how can I help business owners, how can I help homeowners, that's the place to start, right? If you've done that.
If you don't mind, let me just take a pause here, right? Because I'm really interested to see how you answer this, right? And how many free, restoration projects do you guys do in a month and a year?
Intentionally or unintentionally? Zero. Intentionally, right?
That's a great. Okay, cool. And here's the reason why, right? And it's not that I'm trying to be confrontational. I just really want to provide clarity. And because our industry, this is one of the issues, one of the fundamental issues that I have with the 2023 new age woo-woo, let's feel really good, high five everybody, everything is kumbaya. And the restoration industry uses that quite a bit, in part because they don't have to go out there and do like roof sales and knock on doors and say, hey, how are you? Let me get on your roof. Let me go ahead and do some business with you, and then close them. Or there's not a real physical monetary transaction. There's a lot of, and this sounds coarse, right? But there's a lot of spoon feeding in the industry, right? Especially when it comes down to sales between the TPAs and doing program works and all of this other stuff, right? So I think, and this is just, again, this is locker room talk with a lot of people that have this conversation. They just don't say it as vocally as I do. Everybody says, as long as you're here to help people, right? But the thing is that when you start asking the question, well, if it was all about helping people, then why aren't we doing more pro bono work? Why aren't we doing free things, right? Inside of even our own local communities. So then we'll say, well, no, you can't do that, right? Because you can't really build a business that way. So where is that delicate balance? And again, there's a reason to the madness on asking you this way, because when people are like, oh, well, you got to forget about the money. Well, you can't forget about the money, because without the money, you can't grow your business. You can't really have an impact on the community. So somewhere in that, relationship building, trying to do the right thing, there still has to be like this savviness about where you're making your money from and how you're going to grow. So where do those two lines meet?
Yeah, it does have to exist. I think what I was referencing there is, where do you start from, right? You start from a place of helping, and then I think you pretty quickly figure out. And in our industry, we get to see the gamut of society, right? We see the whole range of people, and of course, money's involved. Of course, there's going to be a charge. And yeah, at times we should do some pro bono work, but that has a place. But if you come at it in your heart, you're here to help, and then obviously you're talking to somebody that needs that. Now we've got a good relationship. Of course, I'm going to charge you. Then we can have an adult conversation. But then you figure out who you're dealing with at that moment. That's the moment where you say, okay, do I have somebody that's willing to pay me fairly for what we're doing? Or do I have somebody that is now am I in a car deal or a car deal? I say that negatively, right? Am I in a seashell game of costs and things? But do I have somebody that came to me with a what I'll call a facade of needing help, but they really were trying to financially gain from the situation? And you can figure that out through a couple of, the first interactions, and you kind of know, am I dealing with somebody that just truly starts to play games with me, or am I dealing with somebody that just needs help and needs to get their business back or their house back? And so, yeah, you do have to be profitable, but I would go back to, if you start from the right place, then it's healthier. And I think that it comes through in the customers that you want to do business with and do repeat business with at some levels. It comes through in the carriers and the programs. If you're there to truly provide service, that's what we are. We're a service provider. Yes, you have to ask for money. Yes, you have to charge fairly, but I think it's just where you start from.
Right. So, and again, kind of going back to the original portion of that question, right? Just now that we actually got like the money portion out of the way, when do you know how to build the right relationships and where you should go to pursue the right relationships, right? Because you could be barking up the wrong tree in the sense of, trying to build relationships with certain organizations or even a certain group of potential customer base that really isn't going to move the needle forward for you. So, for those that are listening and watching, they're like, man, you know what? I understand that there's a value of building quality relationships. I also my heart's in the right place, right? Like, we are in a very, very fortunate place where, yes, we have the opportunity to make a tremendous amount of money, but we also have this, gift to provide real hope for people, right? Especially the business owners and the residential homeowners when they're underwater, they have a mold situation. Like we walk in, and a lot of times we're perceived as heroes because we're getting their life back in order, right? And there's this, besides the money, there's this great sense of accomplishment and of of being of use that comes with that. So what kind of relationships should a restoration company in their earlier days or in their pursuit to getting to, 8 figures, should they try to forge? Is this more of, trying to build relationships with, let's say, program work and TPA vendors, things like that, or just the independent community, homeowners, things of that nature?
So I think that we would use the filter that I would say, who's the decision maker, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that as a kind of starting up restoration contract, you have to burn that into your brain. Who's the decision maker here, right? And so let's use the example of a residential loss. Certainly the homeowner is the decision maker, but quite often you'll see in that scenario, they don't know what to do or how this is handled or all the rules. They've never had an insurance claim before. So are they really the decision maker? And that's where as a savvy contractor, you have to step back and say, okay, who's making this decision? And in a lot of cases, it's the TPA, right? As far as the assignment to that lot, that's probably how you got there from a TPA format. But the next level of that is really the adjuster or maybe the agent, right? And so I think you have to be in the early days, get good at and be bold about saying, okay, who's making this decision here? And I think that where I've seen failure is when either our people or others, they're timid about that. And that'll actually, another kind of topic in itself, but that comes back to getting paid for it, right? If you're willing to be candid and say, hey, I need, how do I collect money? How do I collect this payment? We actually see, because accounts receivable is an issue in our industry, sometimes just asking for the money is what you need to do. But on the front end, you have to ask, hey, are you the decision maker? And there's a tactful way to do that, depending on the environment. But that really that concept carries not just from a single-family residential loss. Now you get into the complexity of multifamily and commercial worlds where, I don't know, there might be 4 decision makers. There might be layers of decision makers. And then you get into influencers, right? So you might find the person that owns the property and they say, hey, I'm in charge here. I'm making this decision. Well, are they really? Right. And you have to respect that position, but then you have to kind of ask some leading questions. Okay, who else is involved here? Who else do I need to communicate with? And that'll start to tell you who are the influencers, or what I'll call adjacent decision makers, right? So we think about a commercial loss. You might have that property management or that facilities manager that called you out because, hey, he or she is dealing with the immediacy of that. But now I've got to get to the building owner and their respectful relationship with that. Who is the adjuster? How do I communicate with that? Do I have somebody that I know already? That's a beautiful scenario if you already know them and you know what you're dealing with. But yeah, you have to be willing in the early days to kind of peel that back, and that's sometimes hard in a situation where you're there, the building's flooded, it's crazy, we got to get mobilized. You might have all kinds of personal issues happening with the occupant, and then you're having to say, okay, who's making these decisions, and how do I start to talk about money, right? Which is the delicate balance between taking care of them and helping them, which is why we want to start with that. But you have to shift to, this is a business transaction, right?
Right. So, in the early days, right? Or this is debatable, right? Because it's always some of the most successful businesses, right? They always talk about getting back to basics, right? Sometimes as businesses grow, they start looking at, new ways, new innovative ways of doing things, or what they think is innovative for the business at the time. And really, they kind of start getting away from what caused them to be successful in the first place, right? So this is all relative, right? But in the early days of an organization trying to achieve whatever goal it is that they're trying to achieve, right? And whatever their vision is of success, how should people, or how do you think that restoration business owners should go about branding themselves properly, marketing themselves properly, and becoming the authority in their local, service area?
Yeah, I think it comes with, you become an educator, right? You become the educator the moment you walk through the front door of a building that's damaged. And I think that if you get good at thinking about how to share knowledge about our industry, we're operating in a space where it's foreign to most people in society. It's not. I don't think it's rocket science, but it is foreign. And being able to say, here's what we're doing and here's why we're doing it, I think is really key. But that transfers not only to that that customer relationship, but that transfers also to the further interaction you have with all those other decision makers and influencers that get involved in a project. But so that's as an individual owner. That's how I would start, if you will. But then I would very quickly make sure that if I'm starting off, my business is perceived as a team, right? So I think where I see people struggling or businesses struggling, it's when so much of that energy is central around one individual, which primarily usually is the owner, the founder, whoever that is, right? Those situations, that founder might be great. He or she might be amazing, might be really talented, might be intelligent, all the things that make you successful. But pretty quickly, I see those businesses limit out. So if you're a small business and it's all about you, you're doing it wrong. And what I would say is, as a true leader of a business that wants to grow, the quicker you can get to a team aspect and a team environment, even to the point where you might know the answer, but you're promoting your employees, you're promoting your team members, you're bringing them out to learn with you, or you're putting them in situations to succeed or fail. I think that building a business is, at the very first day when you open the door, it certainly is about that founder and that owner. But the quicker you get to make it about the team and the people, that's where success and growth comes from.
So, and that's a good segue, right, to talk about company culture. I mean, obviously there's a lot of talk about company culture. Our business is certainly a people-driven business, right? Not only from a customer side, right, but also just in order for us to be able to deliver the services that we deliver, and to be the helping hand for whether the business owner or the homeowner, like we need to have the right people to go ahead and be that face of the company. So one thing that a lot of business owners struggle with is trying to find the right people. You hear a lot of complaints saying that the job market right now, that there's a massive labor shortage, right? Like nobody physically wants to be in a truck and work and be lugging equipment up and down and all these things that you hear in the industry. From where you sit now, and what advice would you give to the business owner who's trying to build their team? Maybe they have a small team and they're trying to really expand and they're trying to have the absolute best team members that the market has to offer. How do they become an attractive brand, an attractive company to get their, to be able to have those individuals come and work for them?
Yeah, there's no golden arrow there. I will tell you that. But here's where I would start or suggest that others start. If you focus on fit first, right? A lot of hiring managers and in the early days of business owners, they might focus on, well, this individual doesn't have the resume or the experience that I think I need, right? And so then you start to shift in a direction where you're just focusing on stats when you're trying to hire. And then what you end up is the wrong people that shouldn't be in your business. Whether they might be great people, but they're not aligned with that owner. They're not aligned with the culture of that company as it is. And there's nuances to every business as far as their internal culture, right? But I would hire for fit first, and then figure out how to train after that, or figure out how to expose. You're far better off. The power of a group of like-minded people that should be diverse at the same time, but also there gets to be this energy, and a team feel and a family feel, right? And those are the things that you really want to chase. And then you'll find that, all of a sudden I've got good people that don't, listen, dragging an air mover through a crawl space is tough for anybody. I don't care who you are, right? And so nobody really likes that part of the job. But if they exit that really terrible situation, and then they're met by people that care about them and people that make them feel like they're valued, and people that are helping them grow their career, then it gets a lot easier. So I would focus on the right fit first. Worry less about resume. It doesn't mean you can't have somebody that's totally unqualified, but at the same time, you can over resume the hire, and all of a sudden you get the wrong person.
Right. And that totally makes sense, right? The
Yeah.
people that you hire have to fit in with what your vision is, especially as an owner, with where you want to take the company. So now one of the questions that I think ties in perfectly with that, and there's a lot of concern about this, right? Especially for a lot of the companies that are billing insurance companies directly, for whatever reason, they feel that insurance companies, and again, I feel bad that I even have to give this disclosure. I personally don't have a horse in the race. I think that different businesses are going to be built for different things, whether that's, you want to go direct to consumer, or if you want to go through some kind of program work or as a vendor. I mean, whatever it is that you're built for, hallelujah. There's people that are really successful all the way across the board. So I don't have a horse in the race, but I hear the chatter in the industry. And for those companies that, feel that the insurance companies quite aren't paying their invoices in full, right? That they should be paying more. They're not keeping up with quote unquote the times and all of this stuff. Pay is something that has to be competitive, right? Where does pay fall in this, hiring decision making in order to acquire the right individual? Is there a formula? Is there a mindset that a business owner or hiring manager should have when trying to attract high quality talent, and then also in their mind justifying what a good going salary should be for the industry?
Yeah. I think it's got to be relative to volume. And I think that as a business owner, you have to kind of do some math and say, whether I've got a production person or I've got a salesperson, there is a point where you have to say, well, what does the market bear or whatever? But you also have to look at, within my organization, what kind of dollar volume is going to flow through. So for example, right, if I've got a salesperson that's going to sell $1 million of restoration work a year, I have to be able to do, as a business owner, I have to be able to do the math and back that up and say, okay, what if I have net profit that is, what I need to have, and I can assume a gross profit on the jobs, assume the jobs are performing, what's left over that I can pay my employees with, right? And what I would tell you is you should always feel like you're a little, in the early days, you should feel like you're paying a little bit more than I want to or I have, because I want to get that better employee or I want to retain the good ones, right? And so what is the actual number? It really depends on volume. So in BluSky, we have folks that might join us and use as a parameter as a salesperson. That new salesperson might sell $1 million a year for us, but we've got a lot of tools and resources that we can help them. And so, some of our more experienced salespeople can sell quite a bit, almost exponential volume beyond that. And so now the dollars are available to pay them more. So it really becomes, what am I going to get in return, right? And what am I ready for in return, right? So there was a time at BluSky when we were smaller, we really looked at, gosh, we'd like to hire more experienced people to help us sell larger work or more complex work, right? And then we started to see the comp levels of those, and we said, gosh, that's not in the cards for us right now. Eventually it becomes there when you get to grow the business, but I think you have to fit the comp and the person and the production to the size of business you're at. And so there's no magic number, but it should be a backwards calculation from what do I expect to get, and then what can I afford to pay, and does it math out?
Right. And the reason why I bring up this question is because there's always this thought of, okay, why is it that there's a labor shortage, right? And there's several reasons, and there's several theories that we can go ahead and discuss based on, why we think that there's a labor shortage. However, one of the ones that constantly keeps popping up is this younger generation, and you can't blame them for it, when they realize that there is a way to not forget about making, 6 figures a year. They're making 6 figures a month with a microphone and a laptop, let's say, right? Or right from their smartphone. And, here we are, we're in an industry that on the surface has a tremendous amount of money, but when they have this starting off position, really, when they look at what they're being fed through their social media feeds and everything else, they're like, man, you know what? That's not glamorous. And on top of not being glamorous, it's not rewarding enough, at least not right off the bat. So there's this thing, right? It's like, well, where does the value come from? And then a lot of, to pay, you couple that with the fact that a lot of owners, they get into the business and they have bills that they have to pay, right? Not only their business expenses, but they also need to, have their personal expenses and all of this stuff that somehow, some way needs to come out of the business. So they're trying to make this really high end profit. And yet they're trying to attract this, superstar individual, but the superstar individual wants X amount of dollars a year. And rightfully so. Right. So it's like always this trying to find this like magic place where both of those scenarios meet, to where the owner, is still attracting the superstar, maybe feeling a little bit of the pain, knowing that this is a growing pain that they have to go through. Maybe the sales rep, in some cases makes more money than the owner, right? On an individual deal basis, right? So it's like, where do you find that magic mix, and how do you make it compelling to the newer generation to want to be part of your organization?
Well, there's two things. There's probably one or two things. Listen, some of those dynamics you just can't compete with, right? If you can make $1 million a year with your camera and a laptop, those folks should go do that, right?
Right.
That I can't compete with. But what I can compete is by saying, look, as a newer business, as a smaller business, and this is where I'll probably preach over and over again, that if that owner, it depends on their length of vision, if you will. So what are they doing here? Is that owner trying to build a $10 million business and they want to squeeze all the profits out of that? Great. If that's their plan, then that's going to come with certain things. But if we have to remember, the business in itself has value, right? So if I were an owner starting a business, personally, I've seen this take cycle, and we've been through, buying and selling of businesses. So I understand that the value of the business is where the real fun starts when you get to dollars. It's not the net income on a yearly basis. So my advice to a smaller business owner would be to give away as much, worry less about your lifestyle in the early years, and make sure that you're sharing with some senior people in a reasonable fashion. So if you want to get that great employee that when you're not looking is going to drive your business forward, well, you gotta make it worth their while. So that can come with, maybe you give them some ownership. Maybe you drop some documents and you give them 2%, 5%. Now they're an owner too, but they're not a majority owner. They're not controlling your business, but they've got a stake in the game. And so if you think about that generation that we're trying to serve, you're trying to answer the why am I doing this? The latest generation does not want to come to restoration for just a job. And you can either we're going to give you a career and we can help you grow and help them see the vision of their life, or you give them some ownership, or both. Now you're starting to get some traction with some real quality people. And I think that's a scary thing for a startup business owner to say, what do you mean I'm going to give ownership? Well, if I give you 5% of my business and you help me triple it, then I've won as an owner, right?
Right.
You're winning, right? And so you have to think about the length of your kind of play, if you will, and look past a year over year kind of picture, and understand that I'm building something that not only is going to generate profit and generate income for me, but I'm also building something of value. And something of value, the larger and more profitable that is, the more valuable I have, right? And so there's also other avenues where you can say, look, I'm going to set up both regular compensation and some versions of bonus for growth, or bonus for, make it a deferred comp plan. There's things like that are out there that can really motivate those folks that you want to get in the door and you want driving your business forward. But I think if you, as an owner, have to shift and think and put yourself in that employee's shoes and understand that the barrier of entry is pretty low in the restoration industry as far as cost. Anybody can go start up a restoration business tomorrow. You've got a truck and some fans, and that's not free, but at the same time, compared to other industries, it's pretty low barrier of entry. And so if I want that great person to come and be part of my story, I have to give them something. BluSky, I think we've done a version of that. We have just under 200 employee owners today. We've been trying to grow that path, and we're a little larger in scale than a startup, but at the same time, we had some of that dynamic way back in the early days of BluSky, and I think probably a big reason why I'm here, right? That anchored me, and that made me think differently about my day to day. And so it doesn't mean everybody out there should go give away ownership all over the place, but at the same time, you have to think about that next step for that person, which is past that paycheck, past that job by job bonus. You've got to give them something more.
Finish up your thought on that, and through the power of editing, we'll make this look amazing.
Well, in summary, what I would say is, as a small business owner, you should think in the long term and think about what are you building, and understand that while you're getting your yearly and monthly income from the business, you're also building something of value, and so something that you could someday sell, something that you could someday reap the rewards from. So it should be, in my view, a situation where you're willing to give more to those early employees that help you grow that business to something of value. And I think a lot of smaller business owners struggle with the idea that why would I give somebody 100,000 plus? They're not doing that much yet. But the idea is you can't do it alone. You got to get the right people in. So
yeah, and that makes all the sense in the world. And talking about building something of value, right? There's a lot of acquisitions that are happening within our industry, right? Private equity money is coming into the industry. So as an industry, we've really captured the attention of some deep pockets, right? Is now a good opportunity for maybe some of the smaller organizations that don't have the tightest ship to kind of look at the landscape and say, hey, this is an amazing opportunity that may not be around forever for me to really get all my ducks in a row, really find these superstars, tighten up my books, and really start building a business with the intent of an exit, whether the exit or not. That's a totally different conversation. But from your experience, from what you see now, how good is the opportunity for companies that are positioned properly in order to be acquired?
I think it's an amazing time. I don't think it's good. I think it's an amazing opportunity. And what you have out there is you've got several of the larger players in the industry have partnered with private equity. And fundamentally, for those that are not familiar with that, sometimes we do hear the term deep pockets. But what you should really understand about private equity is the individuals that are taking that approach as far as investors, they want to grow. They get returns. They get benefit when you grow a business. And so the ones that I've met, the ones that we've worked with as part of BluSky, I've really found some great people, some smart people that have helped us a lot. Now, what does that mean? Are they controlling our? No, they're not running our business. They're not directing us. But when you get to work with people that have a different perspective than you, when you get to work with people that have a different kind of view and experience and kind of history of understanding business, that can help elevate your game. And so there's a lot of good people from private equity that are out there investing in restoration, because the nature of at least what I see, and I could be wrong anywhere in here, but we largely have an industry that really started to expand or grow or establish itself, and I would call it the 80s and maybe really the 90s. So if you look around at most of the business owners out there, there's a lot of owners that are in their 20th year, 30th year. They're kind of starting to get to what I'll call the November and December of their professional time out there, and they're saying, gosh, what do I do? That's a lot of what the industry, there's thousands of restoration providers out there that are in that situation. Now, it doesn't mean that somebody that's 4 or 5 years into it isn't in the same boat, because in the last 5 years, I would say most of the larger players in the industry have been backed by private equity. BluSky certainly being one of them. We're acquiring actively. We're acquiring the right businesses and teams that fit our culture, but so are the others. And so there's an energy behind that if you understand private equity in its fundamental form, I just mentioned that their goal is to grow the business. Their goal is also to then sell that business to probably another private equity group who is going to take it to the next stage. And they do that every 3 to 7 years. And so if you think about, we're about 5 years into a kind of a big push, we're at that time where, depending on the different acquirers, they're in growth mode, and they're really looking to pay well for the right restoration businesses that fits their story. Now, at BluSky, we focus first on culture. When we look at a business to partner with, and partner is the right word rather than buy or acquire or any of those words, it's partner. Quite often what we're looking for is, does that culture fit our culture, and can we bring that group in and become one with them, and can we make them part of BluSky? Because we believe in fully integrating. That's our philosophy. We're going to integrate a business fully. We're going to try to do that with grace and kindness and over the right time, so we're not making it any harder on the employees than we have to. But we believe in integrating. There are other philosophies out there that are not integrating, and I'm not really going to say that they're right or wrong. It's just different. So the fundamental question you asked, is this a good time? This is a great time. It's an incredible time because of all that energy, because of all that influx in the industry. I think that we're on a path, and if I had a crystal ball, which I don't, but I've got a pretty good idea about this one. I think in the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to start to see 3 or maybe 4 major players kind of rise to the top. And when I say major, that might be into groups that are doing north of $1 billion in revenue a year. And I see that taking shape as the industry grows. Because right now, for our experience, we've gone through multiple market studies, and we know that we're dealing with, and here's the scary numbers, $100 billion industry. Restoration in the US is a $100 billion industry, where even if I'm totally wrong, the largest players are pushing the 1.5 to 2 to 3 billion, right? So there's still, no matter where those numbers fall, even with the largest providers in our industry, there's just such a small fraction still. And so what means is what's left is thousands and thousands of smaller operators, great businesses, good people that now are faced with this reality where something is about to change, to where now we've got several larger players, and other industries have gone through this. And what we see is there still are smaller operators. There still are those smaller businesses that are doing 1, 3, 5, 15 million a year, but the dynamic changes and the competitive landscape changes. And I think that as a smaller operator, I don't want to discourage anybody from that, but you'll have a different kind of view on competition than maybe it is today. 4 or 5 years from now, there could be some more established, larger players that are changing that competitive landscape. And where is the majority of the business going to? There could be a pretty good shift. So yeah, I think it's a crazy time. It's a good time. Private equity is interested. You've got some really good acquirers out there. There's great businesses. I think BluSky is certainly leading the pack, but I'm a little biased, but I also think we've got a unique approach to it. But there's still other great acquirers out there. So this is a good time to think about that path. And I think a lot of sellers thinking, gosh, I built a business, and what do I do with myself afterwards? Or you could get into, is it ready to sell? They're just like many other things. There's no good time. There's no perfect time to sell. Right. There's always going to be some nuances where you had a bad job that's in your data, or you haven't built this department up yet, or but it is something you can always talk about. And a good acquirer will take the approach of partnership. We've had businesses that we've talked to where we said, look, they came to us and said, we're ready to sell. We want to sell. We looked at their financials, and we looked at the structure of the business. We went back to them and said, look, this isn't the right time. If you can go clean up these parts or do these different things, we give them good advice, not because we want to buy them for a cheaper amount, but because we want to buy a good, healthy business and have a good transaction. And that leads to a longer term partnership that is really what it should be. And so that might be one of the biggest pieces of advice. If you're looking at it as it's just not selling a car where you hand over the title and say, see you later. Selling a business is a much more dedicated and longer term play, but you do want to be talking to folks that are not just about the dollars. It's more about the experience and how are we going to feel 5 years from now, right, about each other? If you look back 5 years ago to whoever you partnered with, do you feel good that you did the deal? And
right.
It should be a good collaborative thing. And so sometimes a good acquirer will say, not yet, wait a year, and let's talk again. And that works with the private equity world. They don't mind, the good ones don't mind paying the proper amount, paying more dollars for a good, healthy business that is now combined with another good, healthy business, because that continues to add value for them.
Right. So, and obviously you guys are actively looking for those partnership opportunities, right? Yep. So I'd like to unpack that a little bit more and talk about what the ideal type of partnership, that you would be saying, hey, look, this is structured properly. This looks good. This is what we're looking for. And I'd like to kind of, provide a little bit more clarity on that to see exactly, maybe someone's watching or listening and saying, you know what, I've been thinking about, partnering, and I've been thinking about, possibly, entering this kind of a relationship. What exactly is it that I need to look like? But before we do that, let's just go ahead and take a quick moment and thank our sponsors. Hey, real quick, are you a restoration pro looking to hire top talent inside of our industry? We all know that labor shortages are real, but I may have a solution for you, okay? And that is Wylander. Why? Well, very simple. They are the go-to recruiting company inside of the restoration arena. Well, the reason I say that is very simple. They've got proofs in the pudding. They've got over 1,000 placements in all 50 states, plus Canada. And what that means is that they not only have the expertise, but more importantly, they have the connections to find that top industry talent that you and your team are looking for. So stop wasting time. Stop sifting through tons and tons of resumes and just conducting endless interviews. Let Wylander do the heavy lifting for you and help you find that right person to help your company succeed. Call Wylander today and start building that dream team inside of the restoration arena. Dominators, let's face it, your company will make it or break it on the backs of your estimating team. But if we're honest here for a second, what tools have you actually given them to succeed? The actionable profile is the newest tool inside of your estimator's toolbox, or at the very least, it should be. The actionable Xactimate profile is a data-driven solution that provides real-time estimating guidance on the fly. It checks for both overages, omissions in your estimates in real time, leading your team to having much more accurate scopes each and every single time that they're writing an estimate. Avoid any kind of potential conflict with the adjuster and ensure that your estimates include every single warranted line item with the actionable Xactimate profile. Get your free demo today. If you head on over to value.getinsights.org/dominate, we've got an amazing offer for you. Again, head on over to value.getinsights.org/dominate and get your free demo today. Hey, Dominators, I want to talk to you about Impartial and how Impartial creates timely and accurate estimates for faster and fairer claims settlements. Impartial's intelligent toolkit leverages Matterport's 3D scanning technology to automatically generate mitigation and repair estimates. And with Impartial Scope, you can extract relevant data that's embedded within the pre-mitigation and the post-mitigation scans and generate objectively accurate Xactimate or Symbility estimates. Remove the administrative burden and finally accelerate your claims approvals with Impartial today. Dominators, never fill out another claim packet yourself or wait on hold for what seems sometimes to be hours on end to try to get a hold of a lost draft mortgage representative again. Surety was actually purpose-built to keep insurance proceeds flowing to vetted restoration contractors just like you, to relieve cash flow crunch and to reduce a lot of the common administrative burdens that happens when there's a mortgage company involved. So get paid for the work that you've done, get paid faster, get paid with a lot less effort, because listen, at the end of the day, it's your money. So if you want to go ahead and check out Surety, which I would strongly recommend that you do, head on over to your.surety.com/dominate. Again, that's your.surety.com/dominate. We got a really special offer for you. You'll be thankful you did. Hey guys, let me ask you a quick question. Do you want to get paid faster and collect more on your insurance invoices? Then listen, look no further than One Claim Solutions. OCS is an insurance billing specialist that works with adjuster on behalf of people just like us, restoration contractors, to accelerate our receivables cycle and, more importantly, increase our overall collections. Contractors that work with One Claim get their invoices paid on average in around 32 days. And in most cases, actually see an increase in the collections that more than offset the price of the service. So in a lot of ways, this makes OCS effectively free. And that's even before you start to count in the overhead savings that's tied to billing and all of the other administrative burdens that go along with that. So I tell you what, let One Claim Solutions deal with carriers so that you can spend more time on what matters most, which is running your business. Get your free consultation today. Head on over to oneclaimsolution.com/dominate. Once again, that is oneclaimsolution.com/dominate. All right, cool. And now we're back. So we left off talking about like what this perfect scenario would look like. I mean, obviously there is no perfect scenario, right? But if someone was interested, they have the restoration company and they're like, man, you know what? We are at that point, or we feel like we are at that point emotionally, physically, mentally, what have you, or we just strategically think that this is a good opportunity for us to, be acquired, to partner with a larger entity. In your experience, like what does that look like? Let's say that I was looking to sell my restoration company, right? What should my mindset be if I'm about to start entertaining this as something real that I want to bring into, my life, into my, the baby that I built, that I put all this sweat equity into? What should my mindset be as a seller or someone who's looking to partner? And then what's you guys' mindset kind of looking in saying, okay, well, these are the bare bones minimums that we're looking for. And these are some of the areas that once we step in, we can potentially improve. And how does that relationship work overall?
Yeah, there's a lot of depth there. So what I think you have to answer that question with, and I really probably should answer that through the lens of BluSky, because we have a certain philosophy of integrating and coming together and partnering. And so other philosophies out there might answer this differently. But for us, we are looking for good people. if you ask me, how am I growing this business as a CEO of BluSky, really it's focused on internal culture. It's focused on people. It's focused on, our people still use the word family, and we have 50 locations and 1,400 employees today. We still use the word family. And when I look at a business to acquire or partner with, can I continue that, right? So first and foremost for us, it's culture. Do we have good people? And a lot of business owners think, well, I've got to have everything perfect. My financials have to be perfect, or my performance has to be perfect. The reality is, when you look at a business, you look at a pretty holistic view, and we're going to, and so should everybody else, we're going to look at the last probably 2 to 3 years of performance anyway. And that might be scary. You say, well, I don't have 3 years of steady performance. We don't need that. We're just going to look and understand trajectory of the business and where is it going. Somebody might say, well, I had a really great year. When we get events that might spike a certain market, that inflates the performance for a period of time. And then sometimes a business owner might say, well, I did 15 million last year. I need to value you. You want me to value off of 15 million of revenue or X dollars of EBITDA, but I did 4 million the year before. And then we say, hey, what's really this business that we're buying in volume? But we look at culture first, and then don't feel like you've got to be perfect is the next piece of advice. And then think about, a lot of the right healthy transactions or partnerships have a thought that's far past that closing day, if you will. What is the first year going to look like? What is the fifth year going to look like as you partner with, somebody that's acquiring you? And what we found is if we can start to talk about that in a healthy way, for BluSky, we've grown every business we partner with, and we have a tremendous record of retaining the employees. So a lot of business owners, it's certainly dollars for them, but then they look around for the people that got them there. If they're a good person, they say, well, what about these people, right? And are they going to have a healthy life, and are they going to have career growth? And for us, we've got a great record of that. So what we really try to make sure is that we provide a path for that. So
it kind of goes back to that underlying, philosophy of family, right? Because if you guys come in as BluSky, where you still use that term family, most business owners, I would venture to say, I'm sure there's the offshoot that, this shoe doesn't quite fit. But for most of them, if they've achieved any degree of success in their business, they realize that it's their employees, the people that, the family of the business that help them get to that place. And yeah, sure, the owner may want to, gracefully bow out, but they don't want to go ahead and feed their family to the wolves, right? These people that have dedicated years of their life to getting the business to where they need to be. So knowing that, hey, you know what, I'm partnering with this organization. Yes, I'm getting an exit. Yes, I'm getting, this, this prize, if you will, for all my hard work and effort. But I also want to make sure that my people are well taken care of and that they can still have a vehicle to where they could have a better life, 12, 24, 36 months down the line.
That's so two pieces to that. That's actually one of our vetting pieces. And I may be giving away a secret here, but if we meet with an owner and we're talking about their business, we do kind of an introductory call or a meet in person. We're actually looking to see if their focus is just on themselves or if their focus is on their people and what are the people behind them that help to build the business. The value of the business that you're selling in the restoration, we don't have patents. We don't have, there's no secrets really. Some are better than others, but really what we're buying is that team. And so pretty quickly, we want to understand what that's about. And so we want as an acquirer to help protect that. But I think what I want to hit on in some of your comments there, selling your business doesn't mean an exit. And that's probably one of the bigger things that's kind of a wake up for a lot of business owners as they think about this process. You don't have to exit. Our track record at BluSky, the vast majority of owners are still part of the BluSky story. And as I've shared that with potential business owners, that's kind of an eye-opening moment. Like, no, I don't have to walk away. I don't have to go reinvent myself. No, you can come be part of the family. Right. And a lot of those owners, now what they've done is they've taken some kind of chips off the table, if you will. They've de-risked themselves. I've got a personal chunk of dollars in the bank account that I know that I've got my rainy day fund. Now I can go have fun again with restoration. And what we really tried to make sure is that we provide an avenue for those individuals to go do what they're passionate about. So if you think about it, if you're a business owner, you probably have some strengths and some weaknesses like all of us do. We're all human, right? But you also have some things you really like more than others. Some like finance, some hate finance, some like sales, some like operations. And so what we've been able to provide within the BluSky portfolio or the picture is, come be a specialist, come do what you love. And so selling doesn't mean exit every time. And there should be a path and should be a potential discussion for that. Now, we've got a couple owners that, as they came to us, said, hey, it's my time to exit for personal reasons. One individual wanted to go travel the world with his family. Great. And I think he's doing that and he's happy. Another individual had other business ventures that he was doing and wanted to go focus there. Great. He's happy doing that. Another individual was really wanting to focus on the kind of the church and the charity passions that he's got in his life. And I know that he's doing that. And so you should be flexible. And so if you're looking to exit, you can communicate that. If you're looking to stay, just know that there's options out there for that too.
Yeah, and that's the beauty, right? There is no one size fits all. We all have these different stages in our lives, and some want to exit simply for the money, right? Some, want to pursue these lifelong dreams of, sailing the world, right? There is no right or wrong motivation for trying to, sell the business, partner, exit, call it what you will. And I think that there's that's the beauty. That's the beauty of the restoration arena. And that's the beauty of entrepreneurship, right? You put your nose to the grindstone and you do the right thing. You build the right team, and it gives you options, right? And it gives you a time to kind of sit back and reassess and say, hey, you know what? Is my heart in this, or, can my heart be back in this if somehow it was a different dynamic? And sometimes that's all it takes, right? I'm sure you guys have seen quite a bit of that as well.
Gosh, we've seen it with owners. I think most humans go through those stages. I've seen it with myself. Sometimes you're working so hard and you're grinding and you get, there's a stage of, level of burnout, and you just need a refresh, you need a break. And so, selling your business can create that. What I've seen with some owners that were, some have gone through this moment where, great, I sold my business, I did it, and now they're away from it, right? They did an exit and they're staring at the wall saying, okay, what do I do with myself every day? I've been a passionate person for,
right.
15, 38 years, whatever it is. I've been, and it's pretty hard for some individuals, not all, some to go from 100 miles an hour to zero, right?
Right.
And so that's where we see, folks kind of circling back and saying, well, what I really needed was a break. What I really needed was to de-risk the stress of, all the dollars. So you think, great, you grew a business, but what happens when you grow a business bigger and bigger? Guess what? If you're the sole owner, that's just a bigger, pressure on you when you're trying to sleep on a weeknight or a weekend night. You're trying to relax on a Sunday afternoon. What's running through your mind? The bigger the business gets, the bigger that weight bears.
So let's talk about that dynamic, because you've obviously been in the game a very long time. You've seen it. You have a lot of relationships that you've built. What happens to those owners, right? The guys or the gals that, they built this business, they dedicated a lot of time and energy and effort into it. And then all of a sudden they finally do get that exit and they're like, man, what do I do with myself now? And they start circling back around. Like, what does that dynamic normally look like? Do they, do they reapproach and say, hey, you know what? I kind of still want to be in the game. Like, what's been your experience with that?
Again, our vast majority have stayed with us. So I don't have a lot of samples with that, but I have seen a few kind of circle back around and, they kind of get back into the industry in some fashion, or they do a repeat. We have always taken the approach of, kind of, hey, there's options here at BluSky. So I don't have too many examples, but I've also talked to owners that say, hey, I sold my business X years ago. And then you hear them tell the story, when I waited out the non-compete and now I'm starting another business again. I said, well, geez, that seems like a lot of work, right?
Right.
Why did it have to be like that, right? And so, you see the gamut. But some people, if they did it right, they found their kind of adjacent passion, whether it was philanthropy or traveling or whatever, they have gone that path. And so that's certainly something to consider. But I think that if I were to sit down with any owner of a business, based on what I've seen, I would really caution them and say, hey, don't just think a week past, think a year past, think 5 years past that moment when you've sold your business. Who are you and what are you going to do, right?
Right.
Depending on your age and your energy level and what you're passionate about. Some people are just serial entrepreneurs and they're going to go get their hand in something, right? They can't control themselves, but maybe that's who they are and they need to just be ready for that. But you shouldn't be surprised about, oh my gosh, now it's 6 months out and here's all these, what do I do with myself? You should think about that ahead of time.
Yeah, so there's Tim Ferriss talks about this quite a bit. And for those that aren't aware with the name Tim Ferriss, he's the author of like the 4 Hour Work Week, 4 Hour Body, and all of that good jazz, right? Pretty recognized individual, which by the way, if you have never read any of those books or have digested any of Tim Ferriss's stuff, I would highly recommend that. But one of the concepts that he talks about, and it really makes a lot of sense. Most people don't think about it until it's brought up. It's a lot of entrepreneurs are so busy with the day-to-day. They've got this one vision of what they want to accomplish, how they want to build their business. But then there's also this secondary goal, right? Besides the business, they're like, man, X amount of time I put into this, that'll equal X amount of money. And then eventually I'm going to be able to buy that sailboat that I've always wanted and sail the world, right? Or, I'm going to buy myself that, RV, and I'm just going to, travel the United States with my family, right? But what happens is that they never experimented. They never tested the hypothesis to see as to whether or not they'd find true enjoyment for any long periods of time by doing that. And then what happens is that the situation like this happens where they finally do have an opportunity to exit. They can pivot a little bit, and they realize that life dream that they had, because they never vetted it properly, that's not really what brought them happiness. And what actually was bringing them true joy and true happiness was what they were doing with their business day to day, was building these amazing teams, tackling new markets.
Yeah, hobbies are great, but if you think about the idea of a hobby and a passion and say, okay, well, now I'm going to do it full time, guess what it's going to turn into? Your hobby is going to become work, right? And I give you an example. As a young kid, I remember I was on a construction site and I was looking at the bulldozers and the track hoes, and I don't care who you are, if you don't look at a big bulldozer and think that's cool, I don't understand you. But what I will tell you is, then there's a day when I got to go drive a bulldozer, right? And I say, okay, this is so cool. And it was really, really fun for a few hours, but then guess what happened? It turned to work. and I gained a new appreciation for all those folks that do that full time, all the day, every day. And the perspective there is something that could be really neat and you're passionate about, you're excited about. If you do too much of it, it turns into work. And that's where, just as you're saying, I think that folks that are looking through a life change or a life transition, or having these big dramatic moments of this vision or dream that it's going to be all different tomorrow when I wake up, it's unfortunately not. And so I think what you're suggesting, and what from the author there, is ease into it, right? And maybe if you think about, I'm going to sell my business, can I sell my business, stay adjacent enough to the industry I love, in case I found out that I just needed a break? And then can I still take some time to do some of my passions? I think there's a way to plan that out if you're intentional about it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So speaking of authors and books, something that I ask the majority of my guests is to share their most impactful books and or books that they would recommend for entrepreneurs to read that may move the needle for them. What would be your top three? Do you have a top three list or a top five list of books that had an impact on you, or that you would highly recommend for entrepreneurs to read?
Yeah, so it depends on what stage you're at. I think probably the first answer is you need to read a lot, and there's so much perspective out there. I use the term, there's no magic in any one of the books, but a culmination of enough business books and perspective will give you your own perspective. But to directly answer your question, as I talk to young people, the very first book I suggest is Rich Dad Poor Dad. And does that help you build a business? No, but I think it's spot on in its setting the stage of thinking about how to make money, how to think about money. And so as a very early thing, I tell you, I've got 3 children, and I've already got 2 of them reading it in their early teens, even though I may not understand it. But Rich Dad Poor Dad would be the first one. I think it's just, it's perfect as far as perspective on money. The second one, which is as you start to advance into your career and into kind of the professional world, which some people kind of give me the side look when I tell them this, which is The Art of War. And The Art of War is
right really, there. It's one of my top favorites right there.
Yeah, and if you can go at it with the right perspective, I think it's such a good learning lesson about how to navigate people and understanding that everybody is out there in the world doing their thing. And what does that mean when you've got an adversary, or maybe you don't have an adversary, maybe you've just got somebody that's just trying to be them. And so there's so many good perspectives in that. So I would say The Art of War is the second one. And then one book that hit me early on in my career, which gave me the right perspective, and I would say Jack Canfield is Success Principles. And what I would really say is, you read the whole book, there's a lot of good in there, but if you just would read number one over and over again, which is take responsibility for yourself. Again, these are things that I think are fundamental to operating in the business world. And I think that was one thing that maybe I was already there and it hit home, or maybe it really shifted my mindset on kind of how to navigate the world. But first, take responsibility for yourself out of Success Principles from Jack Canfield.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, and it's funny, right? Because sometimes you read some of these books and they have a certain impact on your life, but sometimes you come back and you revisit them and you pull out entirely new gems that they were there before, but you just never really took advantage of it because your mindset wasn't there. You weren't at that right point in your life to really take on the message. So it really does depend on where one is at, right?
Yeah. And I would say that if you're ready for a concept, that's good. But maybe what I would also suggest is, if you're looking for an answer, you're doing it wrong. A lot of folks that I'll talk to, they'll read a business book and say, "Wow, I read this, and this is the answer." And I would say, no, it's not. But if you're going to business books and you're looking for the business, that whole industry, to look for perspective, yeah, that's where you need to really think about it. So if you read a business book and you get a concept from it and you get the right perspective and you think about and analyze your situation and your business, and then you apply that perspective, now you're doing it right, because there is no answer. There's just perspective, in my view.
I love that. Don't look for answers, look for perspectives. That is absolutely amazing. What a great approach, right? What a great approach, not only to read a book, but to have a relationship with a mentor, right? To call somebody up who's, in your same arena, right? And that's one of the benefits of the arena and the business that we're in, right? There's tons and tons of people that are willing to help, right? And going into some of these conversations, just looking for perspective, not necessarily looking for that golden key, not necessarily looking for that golden answer, and just trying to get a perspective on what's going on and how to slightly change the way that you look at things. I mean, that could be a totally different way to get the answers that you actually need, right?
Yeah, if you've got enough gumption to be a business owner or to be a C-suite executive at a business, you've obviously got some drive, and you've got some passion, and you've got some good ideas of your own, right? But I think one of the things that the good ones, right, the successful people are willing to listen to perspective and give it a shot. And you're going to get a lot of garbage too, which means that you might hear some advice or read something in a book and say, gosh, that doesn't apply to me or my business at all. But now I know what not to do. So I think that being willing to be strong and independent and have your, good ideas and good thought is important. But you still have to listen to kind of what's going on out there and make good decisions and use that perspective in the right way.
That's awesome. So before we wrap up, tell me what, if right now, typically I understand that, talking about, answers and perspective and everything else, we don't always ask the right questions, right? What do you wish that more people asked, that more people were exposed to, that you think could help them not only in their personal lives, but also just professionally and trying to get to that next level? Maybe something that I didn't ask you here on the show that you really feel is of value and that should be shared.
If I look through the lens of individuals, what I would say is you can't stop learning. And I'll give you an example. I had a friend talk to me. He had I think it was his son, was graduating college, and he wanted some perspective. He said, what advice would you give someone right out of college? I would say, go learn whatever you can. Pick up the book, take the training, become the expert as quickly as you possibly can in whatever it is you do. So for the restorers out there, if you haven't simply picked up the IICRC books, go do that, right? And doesn't mean you're an expert, but at least you're trying. And so for people, my advice is, it doesn't mean that you're committing to be a lifelong, whatever that position is that you're in today. But if you can get to be an expert, that is the quickest path to either success in that position, success in that role, or it's the path to the next step in your career. And so I think a lot of people sit around and wait for someone to give me the training or send me to the thing or give me the promotion, go take it. Go take it by learning, go take it by becoming the expert, and learn about what you're doing and being the best at what you're doing that day. And then when you get to the next step, next position, you got to do the same thing again. And so the message within that is also good, right or wrong. Unfortunately, you're never done learning. You're never done growing. And I don't care who you are, where you are, you always have more to learn tomorrow than you know today. And so if you're looking for success and you commit to that passion of learning and personal growth, the success will follow. I'm pretty sure of it.
That's awesome. So just to kind of wrap up, if people have been listening to the interview, they want to learn a little bit more about you. They want to learn a little bit more about BluSky and what those offerings are. What would be the best way for someone to go ahead and reach out and get a little bit more information?
Yeah, you certainly can. There's no mystery. My email is drew.bisping@goblusky.com. But also, I would encourage you to talk. We've got enough folks out there in the marketplace. Go talk to one of our employees and say, hey, help me understand more. Tell me the BluSky story. And there's other avenues where you could reach out through our website. But yeah, we're not hard to hunt down from that regard. But yeah, I would just say reach out and ask, and you're going to get perspective. And we would really welcome that. Is probably the closing of that.
That's awesome, Drew. Well, thank you so much, man. We appreciate so much you taking the time out of your day to, share just a little bit of knowledge. I mean, you and I were off camera on a previous call, probably, what was it? Close to like an hour and a half. And it's just so much. So I'm looking forward to having a part to this interview at some point in the future, and really excited to see all the good things that you're doing inside of the industry. And restoration dominators out there, as per usual, I hope that you enjoyed. Make sure that you're constantly upping your game, right? Taking advantage of everything that we spoke about today. Look at the landscape, look at where you are and what you can do not only for yourself but also for your community inside of this arena. And as always, hustle, hack, dominate. We will catch you guys on the next one.
You've been listening to Restoration Domination, your #1 resource for tips, tricks, and hacks to help your business grow. Subscribe to our channel and follow us for more Restoration Domination. And follow our host at Rico Garcia Jr. on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Till next time, this is Restoration Domination. Hustle, hack, dominate.